Okay, and we're back. Hello, everyone, and welcome to part three of the series where we are building a Chrome extension that can actually earn us money. So, let me give a recap, not to waste time, just jump into it straight away and just show you what I mean. So, this was what we did yesterday, and I'm just going to go to, is it here? No, not that one, not this one. Where was I yesterday? All right, let's go to this. This is Plasma documentation, right, that we are using. So you guys remember this button we had here yesterday created for us? I'm sure you still remember this. So that means that we still have our implementation working to a good extent, right? So with this and with all the explanations and everything that we are working with here, it certainly makes sense to actually now see what we have. So this was what we did yesterday, and this was where we stopped. Let me show you guys what I mean. So clicking this now should do something. Remember, what we are trying to implement is a capture and annotation extension that you don't need to click the icon from the top here like this to capture the full page. In this case, like I have here, it simply means that without needing to do this, you can see how small it is. It doesn't look like an actual extension, a typical extension like something like this that I have to click, or I don't know, I don't have much extensions here, right? So the idea is to give you something like this, but we don't want to always click this. If I am browsing, I don't want to come to my extension tab and start looking for which extension to click to generate the annotations for me. No, I don't want that. I want something that is easy to use. And that is why we are working on what we are working with today. And remember, we said so remember here from the previous part of this series, we created this button whereby if I click on this, it should capture this page and allow me annotate it. And what do I mean by that? It means if I do this, it should show me something like this. You can see this is the entire page that I was, right. So I should be able to write on this page. I should be able to draw on the page to capture, or I should be able to do not a full page capture. This is a full page capture, right? I should be able to also do like a maybe a part page capture. So that means what we are trying to work on will be quite extensive in such a way that now this is just a full page capture. So that when I click it, it just captures the entire page, and then I can draw to the page. I can point certain arrows. I can write text to the page like this. This is what I want to write to the text, to the page, right? This is what we did yesterday, and this made sense, right? So it doesn't work perfectly well. It still had like bugs and issues, which I'm still trying to resolve. Well, we didn't like do a lot on it, but this is what I'm trying to see. Now, if you look at this, the text is here. You can see there's no way to like modify it and all. But you can see that a screenshot works. Like the entire page itself, as complex as the page is, dynamic as it is, we're able to capture the entire thing and write to it. This is it. I can save and export this, but I'm not going to do this. So we have our work cut out for us. Now, this thing you see here, it was the editor we are trying to view yesterday. Remember, we had an editor I was trying to view, and I was trying to use to display something. We couldn't do that. But basically, this is the editor in this case, and the editor works. So that means I can make annotations for any screen I am. It's just as simple as clicking this, annotating the page and closing it, and I continue what I'm doing. It doesn't really affect me. I don't go to a new page. I don't need to just save it and without scribbling. So this way is a good money making extension. I'm going to show you guys how to like take it from this stage to packaging it and putting it on the Chrome store. And who knows, it might make enough money. If it does, I'm going to make another video that shows you how much it has made. But first off, let's try to complete this. So this is where we stopped. It's not perfect. It still lacks. You can see how fast it is, right? It's very fast. And what that is one of our um, go-to strategy. We said we wanted to create something that should give us an edge over our competition. So I'm going to mark this as fast speed, definitely. So I'm going to look for a check mark. So once we see that we've done something, I'm going to check off what we've done from our list here. So second thing we have here is our sync engine. Sync engine means accessible on desktop or mobile, but we can't build the sync engine yet if we don't even have the implementation working perfectly yet. So, but we can see that if you trigger it, it triggers fast. So that means there's a very fast trigger speed or very fast as implementation speed or execution speed, that when I click the button, it captures the page as fast as possible, and then I can write to the page immediately and just close it. And closing it simply means that I have captured. But basically, we can change this close to save, so it's easy to do. If you don't want to save it, you can just close it too. It doesn't matter, but you just want to make sure that the user knows what they are working with. You want to make it easy and accessible to them. It doesn't need to be as full as this. The reason why it is this big is because you're capturing the full page. If you don't want to capture the full page, you can capture some part of the page. The issue is that, is it available for you? Does it accessible for you? You can see, oh, I saved this, that's why I saved it. You can even write text to it and then use it or tell AI to do something behind the scenes. So there are a lot of things we can do with this. I'm just trying to speculate what we can do now. This is something that if I work on it for a week, I should be able to produce both the extension mobile side of it, and I'm seriously thinking of doing it. Like, it's a very good money making machine at this point. The more I think of it, the more I realize the potential. So let's do it as I will actually like to do it. I'm not just building this now to show you guys that, oh, this is possible without completing it. I will do it from start and I'm going to complete it, start to finish. So this is what we have currently. So now let's go back to our project file. So I'm going to continue with the AI we were using yesterday. This is going to be smooth work, no issues, just 100% working perfectly. What's happening to my kilo? Are you up? Are you not up? What? Let me start this. So the app I was yes. So yes, I build mobile apps too. I do all of those things when necessary. So it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so back on this. So I'm going to prompt the AI to proceed from where we stopped. So I said, are you familiar with Plasma framework? That was the last thing we prompted for some of the fixes we needed to make. So now that we've gotten this out of the way. In fact, before we prompt anything, I want to make it look appealing to you as the user. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to like touch on this. We know that we already have this with this red rose background. So I'm going to look for the rose background. So first things first, let's touch on the UI to make it make sense so that the AI knows what to build upon. So currently, if you see it's using like the actual Radix implementation. So this is actually a very modern implementation of an extension that we can extend to a lot of things. We can literally use any React library currently, as long as we can make it work for web. It will work for our extension. That's how powerful what we are building is. So we can integrate it to anything. We can integrate it to an external API, integrate it to a DB, integrate it to a sync engine, maybe an external one. Like we showed yesterday, I said we're going to use Dexy for managing the index DB, right? So we have a local database that we can use and sync the local database with our sync DB, which are going to implement eventually. But let's see how fast we can go today. So let me try resolve some of this whiteness that I have. It doesn't look posh or tush, right? So what I'm going to first of all is go to the, what am I looking for? Okay, let's see. Plasma overlay. Yeah, this is the file we are working with. So this is the actual file, and you can see I'm importing this annotated, the one I just opened just now, annotation editor core. You can see this is the one that contains the annotation, which is this and this. So this one, the anno marker editor, is the one that contains is contained inside the Plasma overlay file. So that's basically what we want to use. So this is the button, this is the floating button we have. The red one that you can see here that triggers it. We should make this button also drag it to be that the user should be able to move it any part of the screen. So nothing affects. In this case now, if there's something here, I'm blocked from seeing it. I should be able to move it away. So don't worry, I have like very, very detailed, modern design thoughts about this implementation, about this extension. It's going to be very, very beautiful when I'm done. It's going to be cool. So let's just finish this and see. So the first thing is so let's do a bit of tweaking here. I want to make this a card, so it looks like it uses the actual Radix UI card. So the mark overlay here gives us a position of fixed 0000, but it has a background. So I'm going to no. This is the overlay. I'm not going to touch the overlay. I'm going to just touch the wrapper itself. So the reason I'm going to do that is I can just give it orange so I can test the color I want to use. So I'll use the Plasmo BG orange color to test it out. So the reason I'm using Plasmo BG is because if you go to the Tailwind config, you can see we are using Plasma as the prefix. So using Plasma as the prefix in your configuration for Tailwind simply means that whatever style you are writing is going to be Plasma based. We don't really need the Plasma thing, but it's just to make it that, oh, you are working with Plasmo. If you are working with other UI libraries, you want to be able to differentiate between both of them. But if you remove it, it's going to work. So I'm going to restart. I'm not a server. So that the command you saw there was for my app that I'm building here. So I'm going to tell you guys about the app when I'm done. It's a very interesting one. I'm building it and it's going to be also useful to you guys. So just using all the skills to build stuff that work for you and make life easy for you. So let's test this again. Let's see if we have the orange color. So it's difficult to know it for sure until we kind of like reload the extension. So one thing I always suggest is whenever you make a change or you're restarting your server, even if it's your dev server, always reload the extension. Reload the extension and then try your implementation again. You can see context validated, press to reload. The reason is because it tends to catch some of the things you do. So there's a cache that keeps some of those things in check, so you don't need to implement it. So as you can see, our color still works. We have the PG orange color. So we don't need to use Plasmo directly in the prefix. It's just an optional thing to differentiate between if you have two different style libraries you use in a project, you can prefix one of them to differentiate between the practice if you are working with like basis in a sense, right? So yeah, anything you can pass to your AI also give it very. So in this case, we are that this here, the orange aspect is our wrapper. So that means we can change that. So if the Mark Editor wrapper here, it should have like a white color, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go to the one before. Yeah, if you have like a white background, which is what we have. So it will refresh, it will reload itself. So if you close this and open this again, it still has the white background. So that means that is not properly removed. What's next? Okay, so the edit of us like this white, it has a box shadow, but I want to make it different. We don't want it to be the same thing that we see here, right? So I'm going to like refresh, click on it, still has the white. So the white should be this Anomark editor. Let's look for Anomark editor. Where do we have that? Oh yeah, so the title too also has that white thing. Or let me see, the header itself should have the white color if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so it has a background of white and this. So we don't want all the backgrounds to like be there. We want to make all the style to be more inline. So we don't need to be changing between like external CSS files and stuff. It's not convenient nowadays to do that kind of thing. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to go back here and I'm going to change this to use a card. And the card is just like Radix card. Let me show you what I mean by Radix card. Radix UI is what I'm going to be using / Radix themes. Oh, there's a card there I should have shown you guys. So there's a card. So this is how the card looks like. It has this color, so you can configure this card to be something like this. And you can style it in any way. Basically, it gives you a card that you can style in any direction. You can take in any kind of layout. Basically, it just depends on what you want to do. So this is an example of a card. This is an example of a card as well. This is also an example of a card. So any how you want to style it, it's your choice. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the card. I'm still going to leave it as video range, and then the markers. The editor should be still relative. Max width is 90. Max height is this. So I'm just going to leave this for now. The display is flex. Animation is slide up. We need the animation there. So I'm going to go back here and click on this. Then you should see that the color should change a bit, right, for the card. Now you can see this is gone. We have this card-like thing. So one thing I'll do is to remove the orange color since we know how it is. Now let's see how the card looks like. And before we do that, also let's see the styling we have and the variants we have for the card. So the card has 3 variants: Surface, Classic, and Ghost. So we don't want to use the Ghost. We want to use this kind that looks like this, or the one that looks like this. Any of the, we can use anyone, even the one that looks like this, we can use this. But if we want to use this, we can use an inset to like clip it to the top, which is most probably what we want to do. In our case, we are going to use the insets for something. As you can see, the insert here is for this image. You can see the card literally has a space here, but the insert clips the entire space and overlay on that space. So which is useful for this kind of use case, whereby you have like where you have this Anomark editor with this clapping in, right? So you want to have something like that that takes the entire space. So that's what we want to do. So we are going to come back to that and implement that. So basically we are going to do that. So the next thing we're going to do is we have this Ano Mark editor here, which makes sense. Like I said, it works. So we are going to remove the orange color. As you can see, I've removed the color, but it's here to reflect. So for that reason, I am going to go back to the extension. I'm going to refresh it. It should refresh automatically, right? But then, like I said, it catches it, especially on some pages. If nothing changes much in terms of like the core functionalities of that. So this is what it's going to look like. You can see that it looks more polished and there's this blurry background that changes based on what is underneath. So it's cool. It looks modern. It looks beautiful like this. So we are working on sticking to this. Two more things I'm going to do. Instead of using this editor header here, which is okay, we're going to make some changes. The first thing is we do not want the flex because it seems a bit too padded. So I'm just going to remove this entire styling. I'm going to remove that. I'm going to use the styling as a flex because the reason for a flex is we're actually flexing it here. Flex item is between, right? That's what we are doing. So we just do that as also align should be center. So this way is easy for us to make changes. So justify should be between, right? Just like we have here, center and space between. Then the padding should be 16 and 20. 16 horizontal, vertical should be 20. That's our that's our benchmark, or that's the way we want it to look like. So we change this to the heading. Heading is a style from Radix, as you can see here, that allows us to have large text that are like bold enough. You can variant it, you can trim and all of those things. So these are properties we can define on the heading, which is cool. So for the Anomark editor title, we need to make some changes because it looks this way. It has a color, it has a font weight and a size. So we're not going to be using any of this. So I'm just going to remove this as well. So I'm going to be removing like one. So using heading gives me the size, give me ability to use sizes like this. Using like this. And if you consider this, we have the font weight to be and see what we have. We refresh that because the context is invalidated. We should see something like this. Beautiful, isn't it? It looks cool. Right? It looks like an actual stuff you see. So that's the first thing we want to do. But we are not done. Also, we are not done. Right? You can see that this is also within a card like this. And when we scroll past the toolbar, which is not what we want. So two things needs to happen. We need to bring this so you can see that first of all, the Anomark editor does have a where is it again? Editor wrapper, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yeah, the editor wrapper did have a padding of some sort. Was it the wrapper or the header? Yeah, the header did have a padding of some sort, which we didn't add to it. So it had a padding of 16 and 20, which is 16 horizontal, 20 vertical. So we don't need to add all of those things. We just need to create like a padding here and say P equals to like 4. 4 is going to be 16 per side. So 16 horizontal, 16 vertical. So I'm going to leave it that way. Next thing to check is for the card, which is the wrapper here. I'm going to leave that here because we have the flex and the column. It shouldn't really disturb much. So I'll remove the border radius because card has its own default radius, which I wanted to use. I'll remove the display flex. I'll leave the animation, the positioning, and the width. I'm just going to leave that. So then we have for this, but this is going to be subjective, right? Because it won't always retain this shape. It's going to be the max. Like that's why it is max width and max height. So if it's a smaller context, it's going to display small, but it's not going to go beyond this width and height. That's our pattern. That's what we are trying to do. So this is exactly our intention for this, right? So the next thing we want to do, sorry, just a minute. Okay, so what we're going to do next is to, yeah, sorry about that. I'm back. So, Okay, so yeah, we have done that. Let's go back to this. Yeah, so let's check the heading in this case. So the heading, we've defined the styling for it. You can remove this, and this, because we've defined the style and this. We don't need the padding, so we don't need any of the um style for the annual mark editor either. So what we can do in this case is just, since everything is literally the same, I'll just leave it, and then I'll remove it from the class name here, since we are not using it. So it's just going to be there. So it won't affect anything. So the heading here is going to take the style that we gave it. This is going to be the title. Remember, we're not using the title also, so it's removed. And then the next thing is our button. The button is going to be an icon button. There's something called an icon button in Radix. An icon button takes in a variant of, let's give it as soft, right? Let's give it a radius of large. We don't want it to be full, but want it to be very, very close. So if you go to Mark Editor Close, we can see that there's a button here that takes this property, right? It's not absolutely positioned, is like relative position, but border, cursor, and all of those things are added to it. We want that, but we don't want it also. So I'm going to remove the close class name and style the button the way I see it fits. So we're not going to be using this X. I want us to install a style library. For now, we are going to leave the X, right? Let's try it out and see. Hopefully this has reloaded. If it does not, okay, it has not reloaded because it is still here. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to close this. I'm going to open it again. Okay, it's catched. So I'm going to refresh. I'm going to do this. Still catched. So let's go here and do this. So the reason why this is as difficult as this is because we are working with context, right? When you're working with context, expect things like this to happen, because you really don't want it to like be loading that for security reasons and all of those things. So you can see the button is now this crimson, which still aligns with our accent color. Remember, we have the accent color defined. That was yesterday. What's happening? Something is wrong. It doesn't overflow again. Oh, that's true. Because we removed the CSS that caused the overflow, which happened in where did that happen? It happened in which of them that overflowed? You cause it to overflow. I think it's literally in the wrapper, right? It's in the wrapper. So the wrapper was the one that should overflow. So we need to also define the overflow for the wrapper. So that means, all right, you know what? I'm going to display this and this and check if that works. So I'm going to go back here, refresh this, go back here, close this, refresh this, click this, and see does it work. Oh, now it works. So that's what we need to do. But first of all, we don't want it to remove the display flex again like we did before. We do not want it to actually scroll the entire thing. We want only the image to be scrolled, not the toolbar. So we need to work on that. So we need to remove the card from this, and we can always come back. We know what is changed. We know what we need to change. We know what needs to be edited. So two things I'm going to do is I'm going to make this insert. Remember the insert I talked about here when we're talking about the card here. You see that this context is going to be valid per page. So for every page, I've invalidated the first page. It still retains catch of it on the second page. So that's why you see invalidated here. So I'm just going to go to the insert here, and I'm going to pick this insert script like this. I'm going to go back to this place, which is this. And then remember, we are done with the top side of things, which is as you can see, it retains that page even though we scroll away, which is this annual mark editor, which is the top here, and I can still scroll. So I want it to be that this second part of it, which is this one, this other part, which is like a card also, which you can see here, should insert inside of it. So how do I know which one that is? So the one that's that particular element or that particular item is this mark editor content. So let's go check it. If you go to marks editor content, you see flex 1, padding 20, all of those things. So how do I identify it? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it in the insert. I'm going to paste the insert here, remove the image because we're not using an image now, and minimize this, paste this inside of this, and see if it works. It might not work for us. Many reasons why, because we've not really identified how we want it to look like. I mean, this has its own styling, so this might override the parent style. But let's see. It's not terrible to see. So let's look at it to see the changes. I'll refresh this again. I'll go back here. I invalidate this. I click on this. You should load it as quickly as possible, as you can see. And yeah, so as much as they try to insert it, you can see the spacing is now smaller. But what's happened is that this, like I said, is overriding the parent style. So there's a padding here, an overflow, which it does have. So we want the overflow to work, but currently the overflow will not work because the item itself, which is the parent container, which is this, doesn't have like a way to make it overflow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this content entirely just to see the difference in styling. Then we'll make changes to it as we are supposed to. So I'm going to refresh this. But before I refresh that, how do I know that this is the card? If I go to annotation core has a card by default. You can see it has a theme and a card, which works perfectly well. So that is why I know it's that. So we don't need this div for right to be like to work for us if we really wrote it the way we expect. And if you understand the whole CSS, HTML structural pattern, the whole markup stuff, you don't really need that because it's just a wrapper. You don't want nested wrappers most times. And you can see here that the insert works. It is now edge to edge, right, for all of them. So what I'm going to do is I am going to literally remove this from being a card. The annotation editor core, I'll remove it from being a card because I don't want it to be a card again since it's now it's like a child component. It should not be wrapped inside the card. So that's one thing I'm going to do. So I'm going to just leave it as a box in this case, as a card. So let's see what we have to make it a box. Let's go back to this, refresh this, click on this. Now we see this and it makes sense. So we see all of this. So yeah, that is cool. So two things first, this one should have like a so the side here is what side is all. I hope that should be fine. I'm not skeptical. I'm not really sure about how that works. The inserts, yeah, it's not something I use a lot. I don't really have use case for it until I need it. So you can see there's this clipping thing that happens here. So I feel like there's still a roundedness that happens at this point that we need to take care of, like this edge here. So for us to take care of that, all we need to do is look for anything that gives us that roundedness, which you don't want. We really don't want it. And so that means if I go here, is there a class name being passed? There's no class name, so that's fine. Radius is none. So I'm going to go back here. I'm going to refresh this. Then I'm going to go back here and validate this. You can see how fast it is to do all of these things. Invalidating works perfectly well, as fast as possible. So let's see, is there any where we have we still have the rows here, right? Plus more rows, but it works. So let's see what we have there. If I invalidate this and I check again. So it has the rows and it's like, okay, still maintaining the card roundedness. Why? We already removed that, didn't we? Yes, we did. So does the box still retain the roundedness? Maybe. So we have our toolbar and everything works as it should. We have this here. Then we have our overlay with the padding box. The PB is current. So let's say this is green 600. Okay, now it works. All right, so the roundedness is no longer there, right? You can see everything works as it should, but this doesn't scroll yet, which is okay. That's what we want it to do. So we need to make sure the scroll works for just the image itself, not the entire thing. So we need to go back here and add that overflow to our editor core, which is what we want to annotate actually. So if I click on this, we want to scroll this image. So the image is contained inside of our canvas. Yeah, inside of this place. So what we want to do is we want to have like an overflow here. So you can see we have a style here. And the annotation canvas container itself doesn't exist. So I can remove this because we don't have a style for it. So I can add an overflow auto. to see if it works. So if I refresh this, you can see our floating button is gone. So it's back now. If I click on it, does it work? No, it still won't work because this red should not even be here. Did I remove it? No, it's still there. So that means this doesn't still work. So what we need to do is we need to. So we have this flex here. So the parent container itself should be the one to maintain the overflow first of all. So you should have an overflow of auto. So if you overflow auto, that means the entire thing is going to overflow, including the segment control where we have the toolbar. But we don't want that to happen. So currently not still working. I forgot to refresh the toolbar. Extension here, invalidate this, click on this. Yeah, it's still not working. Okay, that's weird. So what's the next thing to do? So we need to trace all of this to make sure it works. Like that's usually our first line of action. So we have our toolbar. We need to go to, we don't want to scroll the toolbar. Really, we don't want that to happen. So we're just going to remove this. We want this to be scrollable, which is just our canvas to be scrollable. So that means for that to happen, we have to make it edge full, something like that. It just depends. It needs to just maintain the height of his parent container or any of the parent container that has the relative stuff attached to it. So if I refresh this, that is how it should have happened. So just to be sure everything works well, I'm going to pad this with 4, just like significant padding. I'm going to green this so I can trace the whatever it is that is happening that is not supposed to happen. So I'm going to go back here, invalidate this, refresh this, click on this. If I see the green, then it works. So you can see now that it scrolls perfectly well, but it doesn't scroll well too because it's supposed to take the height of, keep scrolling till the end of it, but it doesn't do that. It just cuts off at this point. So I think one of them has like an height of 100%. So we need to go back to our valid TX and look at one of the okay, the height is 100%, but that's the overlay. The wrapper itself has a max height of 90%, which is fine. The header doesn't have any of those things. The flex doesn't have any of those things. And so the content has a 1, flex of 1, but we're not using that anyway because we literally removed it, which is this. So we remove that from working. And since we've removed that, we just need to find a way to make sure that our canvas works. But the problem might be that our canvas should not be, oh, it's auto too. Yeah, that's correct. So it has an auto 100, which is our base canvas. So it has a max width of 100% and a border of this. And if you scroll down, you can see that happening. But that still doesn't scroll it conveniently, which I understand. Canvas can be difficult to manage. Oh yes, I've totally forgot that. So working with Canvas can be a very big pain. If you are working with Canvas, it can be a big pain to work with. I've experienced that when we're working on a game like that, an actual web game. It was difficult to work with. You couldn't style it as much. It just became unbearable to do some certain things. Now I'm back to it. But that's the way we can implement this. We need Canvas to implement it. So we find a way around it. We need to find a way to hack this literally. So we can't make this edge full at this point. We need to find a way to make the parent container itself to be the one that is full. So we need to collapse all of this flex. I need to do that. This flex, this one, the parent flex. So the block box class name needs to have like a so this is just a way to like you have multiple CSX to have that. Okay, I don't have this too. Wow, it's terrible. All right, so I'll borrow this for now. BG orange. Let's make it orange since we don't have orange here. Then I'm going to pad it just to make it P4 still, to make it look cool, to make it look debuggable. That's the word. So it's just debuggable. It's just for debuggability's sake, right? You want to be able to debug and find the stuff that is wrong with it. So if I click on this, yeah, so you can see this just stretches downward, which is not the way we want it to work. Right, so something is clearly wrong here. Two things I'm going to do. First of all, I'm going to remove this from the inset, right? Because I want to be able to debug that on its own. So I'm going to take this backward. Spend 39 minutes, let's say roughly 39 minutes. Yeah. And I need to get this working before the first hour is gone. So the scrolling still behaves the same way. But what we expect the scrolling to do is I should be able to scroll to the bottom of the page. So the reason why this is not working is because the parent container itself does not scroll. So we need to make sure the parent container respects the height of. Okay, that makes sense. All right, I know what to do now. So we have this. This needs to have a color of blue. 7. Add it to 4 also. So I set this to height of full overflow to be auto. So this is just debug also. I'm going to remove that styling, but if it works, we can pinpoint where the error is coming from. It's just the concept of layout and arrangement, right? Okay, so currently it doesn't do that because you can see there's still a clipping here. So that's not what we want. So yeah, clearly something is still wrong. The card itself still makes sense. Everything is wrapped in a card. So the card should have the overflow. But it currently doesn't have the overflow, so we need to add that to it. I'll just leave it for overflow for X and Y for now. Once we are settled on it, then we'll remove that. All right. So I'm going to close this. I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to refresh this 3 times just to be safe. And just to make sure that the changes are written to the page. Now, as you can see, it works now. I can scroll. But the problem is not that I can scroll the entire page, which is not what I want. You can see this is not what we want. Clearly not what we want. So because of this, we can't scroll the wrapper itself, even though the wrapper contains a height. What we can do is we don't want to scroll the wrapper. What we can do is we don't want to scroll the flex also. So what do we do? How do we initiate this to work? Because if we do not scroll the wrapper, then it's a problem, right? Uh, so how about we do this? I'm going to bring this back. I know I said I was supposed to remove that. I'm going to bring it back to see what we have. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to press this. Here. And do I have the scrolling? Yeah, it still works. But this is not the way I want it to scroll. I want everything to be 100% max. This blue, starting with the blue. So that means the blue should take the height of the parent and just flex to that position. So can that work? Yes. So which one is the blue? This one is the blue, right? So what I'm going to do instead of making it H full, it's going to be, okay, we can't stretch this. I'm going to just be flex 1. Then I'm going to go back again. I'm going to refresh this just to be safe. And then I'm going to go back here and validate this. I'll click on this. Okay, that doesn't work the way I expected it to. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to overflow this because now I have this as P1. The card itself is the card scrollable, which is the first thing I'm trying to deal with here. So the card should be scrollable too, right? So I'm just going to write overflow here because I know that yes, it should be scrollable, but we don't want it to scroll because we want it to take the height of the card. So we already know the card has a height of max height of 90%. So that's what we want. So we want this to be full actually. Like this should be full, but be able to also shrink. So we already said it has a max height of 190%. So you should not scroll into that particular max height. That's the first thing we need. Okay, so yes, to proceed, let's test it again. This should be catched. This should be free. So you notice that there are two scrolls, right? There's a scroll inside of this. Now you can see the top doesn't scroll anymore. Doesn't scroll outside the top. So only the blue. We can only scroll inside of the blue now. But now that is still not the full thing we want. So if I remove this flex one, are we still able to scroll inside of it? Let's confirm that. I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to validate this. I'm going to click on this. So you can still scroll inside of the blue. So that means it's fine. It works perfectly well. So we need to do one more thing. Even after we are able to do this, we want this to also be scrollable. The reason why we are doing this is because now we know that the blue scrolls. Now let's look at the orange. We want the orange to also scroll, the orange container. So where is the orange container? Is in the annotation core edit. So we'll go to this one also and make this h full. Why? Because we want it to scroll. So we want it to be scrollable also. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to refresh this because I want it to scroll. So I'm going to refresh this, and then once I do that, I'm going back to this automatically. So I'm going to click on this. Does it scroll? I mean, does the yellow scroll? It's difficult to tell. I don't think it scrolls. The blue is still the one that scrolls. It's understandable because we mark that as overflow. So I'm going to move the overflow from the blue and set this to be full, which is the orange. So that means the orange is now the one with the overflow. Oh, I didn't set it to overflow, did I? No, I didn't. So I'm going to set it to overflow. I'm going to set this also as overflow. There's a reason I'm setting all of them to overflow so I can constantly check all the scrolling that happens. So this scrolls, and this scrolls. So I want to be able to observe if the three containers scroll. Because but remember that when we check just now, just the inner container is scrolling, which makes sense. Now all these are debuggings that yes, you can do with AI because you don't create something this complex. I'm just trying to do this because I can. I have the understanding to be able to create something as complex as this. So this is, you can see the first thing that happens is that the inner this inner green container scrolls. Then we have the blue scrolling. What other one scrolls? Does the orange scroll? It doesn't. So I'm going to remove this blue. In fact, I'm going to refresh this again just to be sure, double sure that it works as I want it to. So I'm going to refresh this, click on invalidated, then check this again. The blue is one that scrolls. Okay, so that makes sense. So I'm going to remove this overflow from the blue, just the way I've done here. Then go back to the orange here, which is the overflow auto. Then I'm going to go back to this and refresh this and go back here. And once I'm going to click on this. Now this should is back to the way it was before. So something is breaking this and it's understandable what it is. I feel like it is this guy here, which is the thing might be the issue. Because we are wrapping that in something else. So it's breaking the flow. So I'm going to do this for now. It shouldn't affect anything. Hopefully, hopefully not. Okay, so just to be safe and just to be sure, I'm going to refresh this. And I'm going to check this and click on invalidated. And once I click on that, I'm going to click on this. And let's see, does it work? So everything still works fine, but the scrolling still doesn't work as I want it to. So it might not be the theme after all. But it's good to see that it works now, right? So we can still see that we have the parent now overflowing. But if you notice what is happening here, you can see that it overflows here. And you can see the border. So it literally overflows out of the container itself, which is like the worst kind of thing you can build right now. So at any point in time, so this is what we want. This is not what we want actually. So we are going to take it back and overflow the container, remove the overflow from the container because we don't want that to happen. Right? We already know we have like an edge full. There's going to be edge full here, just to leave it like that. You know what? I'm going to do this. To say this, I'm going to once is good. That's realize I'm actually what we have here. You can see string components because I save it to H auto. So it's respecting the H auto, but the canvas is propped up. So what do we do? And the reason for this is understandable. I will explain why that is happening to you guys. Just let me close this and refresh this. All right, so I'm going to go back here. Remember, we have our box inside of it, and we have our box to be. So removing this h full, right? We already have our max height. Let's just assume it's something that works perfectly for us. So I'm going to go here, refresh this again. So what I'm refreshing here is just the extension itself. Like you see, that's the name Anomark I'm trying to implement. And you can see that it's back. The it did not just affect it, but now you can see that it doesn't scroll anymore, right? Nothing scrolls. So we still want it to be that it still works just 100% what we want it to work, what we want it to be. And that means be able to click it and see what you want it to show. So in this case now, the blue, which is this blue container, is still what I'm trying to make sure that it works and maintains the same height, which is like 100% of the parent container, which is that of the card. So in a way, this might mess up our flow, but I'm going to do something to restrict the mess up. So I'm going to wrap both of them inside another flex so I can control what happens in terms of height and width. So I'm going to put this class here inside of this place. So the card itself is not the one that maintains the 90% height. So I'm going to pass a BG purple here, the P of 2, just to observe what is happening here. This is going to be direction of column. So it's not going to have a gap, it's not going to have any of those things, but just column because we want it to work that way. Okay, yeah. So let me refresh this again. So let's click on this. Yeah, and totally messed up the entire thing. Now it doesn't respect it anymore. Okay, which is just incredibly awful. So it's simple. All we need to just do is take it back to what it was, right? That's return the class name. And remember, the class name we are using is just the Anomark editor wrap, which is the one with the max height and everything. So that means clearly we need to pass this to our card. But we don't use this pop one all here. I'm just going to make this H full, right? I'm going to make it H full like this. So that means it respects that height. But you know that the max height is still 90%. It's not going to overflow past 90%. So if I click on this, what do we have? We have it this way now. Now it's doing exactly half of what I want you to do. You can see that it has the card here, which is here, right? Then it has the purple color, which is like this. Now the purple color takes in, no, the purple color should not take in the Anomark. So I'm going to refresh this again, invalidate this, and click on this again. So and everything is gone again. It's not working the way I want it to work again. So that means that is gone. And that's not exactly what I'm looking for. So I want this to be full, right? I want this to be like 11 over 12. I want it to be like max h. No, what am I doing? Okay, you know what? I want it to be h 80%. Let's see if it does that. I'm just trying to like style this properly the way I want it to be. Now, this is just something I should be doing at the end, but the reason I'm doing it now is because what we are trying to build on top of it, I want it to follow the same pattern. So now this is how it looks like if the height is this. So I'm going to set the height to be full, so it respects the height of the container and doesn't overflow that. So I'm going to go back here, refresh this, and validate this. So that means we set our height here to be purple or full, and we click here, and we can see that it respects the container now. So it respects the container, I mean the purple. Look at that purple, you can see. So what we need to do is do the same thing for the blue. So we set it to H of full also, and that should respect it. But currently you can see that it's just like this, right? So we have the header first of all. The header is inside of it. So using the having the blue to maintain a height of full is going to be like problematic. And the reason is simple because this has a height. So we should calculate for the height of the Ano marker editor, which we want to have. So that means one of the things we can do is clearly do it this way. We can have this not being outside, right? That's the header. We can have everything in one header, then fix that at the top. So it remains fixed at the top of it. And then we have, let me show you what I mean. We have something like this. You can see. So it conforms to that stuff and it still scrolls perfectly well. So the next thing that's going to happen is now that we know we have that this defined, I'm going to go to the annotation core, which is the editor core, and then we are going to set this one too. Now the one with the orange is the one that overflows now. It's not the one that overflows. The one that overflows is the green. So we want the green to actually overflow, not the orange. So I'll remove the overflow from the orange and set the eye to be full. Now this is 100% full because it needs to be, right? So what that means is I go back here and I set it to this form. Now there's no two-way, there's no extra data blocking it from being displayed properly. I mean, for this annotation corner. So you should just take in whatever is here and just stretch that. Okay, but it should be stretched, not full. So it's not going to work too. It's going to still overflow a bit. Okay, that makes sense. That's understandable. So if it overflows a bit, then that means we need to do one more thing, right? We can't do the calculation here. So I'm going to take this back. We'll take this back to where it was before. The reason I'll explain the reason eventually. So I'll tell you why I'm doing this. So the header here is going to be H80. What am I doing? It's going to be H80. H80 in this case is like 320 pixels, which is like extremely too much. What's that? So it's going to be H20. H20 is going to be like 80 pixels, literally 80 pixels. So it's not going to go beyond 80 pixels. So that means I can calculate the height of this to be 100% minus 80 pixels. So this is going to be calculated like this. And if I calculate this, then it should retain the same height. So that means this one being full should take the height of the parent. So it's easier for us to work with. Like it's just classic CSS manipulation techniques. Yeah, it works. So it's kind of like something I calculated in my head and I feel like it should work. Uh, yeah, so you can see it works too. The orange works. So we have the purple, the orange, the blue, and the orange all stacked inside each other. So that means they work properly as they should. Now the only thing left is the green. The green doesn't do that. And it's understandable why the green does not do that because the green has two canvases too. Okay, it doesn't have two canvas, but it's understandable why it will do that because we have the toolbox and we have this, which is like H full. I don't want it to be H full. I just want it to be like flex one, which is like let me see, flex grow. Okay, no, let's just leave it like this. Flex one. Flex one is just going to stretch it. Basically, there's that dimension of stretch that's going to give it. So far, we'll be using static dimensions. Now we are using like the absolute ones. And you can see that it stretches back automatically to what it should be. But now there's a problem. It still does not scroll 100%, which is still a problem. So that means it doesn't give us what we want. We still need to use our H full. And I'm going to remove this style basically. We don't need it because we already have a style on the flex itself. So I'm going to do this now. Then I'm going to go back here, invalidate this, and click on this one. So clicking on this one, you can see it goes back to the same flow. The problem here is because this is already here. So what we need to do is simple. We already have our items for our orange color. We can see that it's full, right? So that means the green needs to have a width of full also to maintain the same dimension technically. So if we do that, this should take in this. And if I click on this, okay, so now this is a problem because it takes in 100% and it doesn't stretch. Now that is going to be an issue. Canvas, geez, don't like working with canvas at all. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set it to width is auto. I just want it to maintain the width of whatever it is that is being displayed. So I'm going to do that. Refresh this. Okay, so we've almost solved all the problems, but we have one more that we need to resolve. And the one more we need to resolve is the green, right? You can see that everything works. They are all aligned in one another. But there's a problem. We realize that whenever we make the orange one like fit properly, it fails. It fails for the green, right? It terribly fails for the. So what do we want to do? How do we want to, so we're going to do this. I want to change it to column first of all to see if it's nice, because adding it to column should take the space of the parents, which is like the block element. So block element simply means the one that are stacked upon each other like rows. Yeah, something like this. So this is exactly what I wanted. So it works. So that means it works. It was just to set the parents to set the dimension to column, and that should get it to fine. So now that we are almost done with it, what's the last thing to do? We know the last thing is this is H full. So this is also H full. We don't want it to be H full by default. We want it to take the flex of that. Okay, we can't do that. We need to make sure that it takes the width of that and scrolls as you're supposed to scroll. So there are two ways I can undo this. The two ways I can undo this is we do not add our width to this at all. The height, rather, we do not add the height to this. We only maintain the width. And I just static this. I position this as static, sticky rather, and set the top to be 0. That works. So I don't need to height this one. So if I try this, it's one of those arcs. So it's one of those like floaty, then scrolling, then to stick to the top kind of rotation. So as you can see, it works. But the problem, it still doesn't scroll. And the reason why it doesn't scroll is understandable. I need to add the overflow scroll here to make it work properly. And if you notice that this still works fine, so I'm going to go here, refresh this again, and check here, check here. If I click this now, you can see everything is perfectly inside. And this is it. We've already fixed it. So this is what we want to see. But as you can see, this still doesn't get sticky. I mean, this one, it gets sticky. As I'm scrolling it, I can feel the stickiness, but then it still scrolls. So that means it doesn't work properly for our use case, which I understand why. So I will go with this arc because, of course, it could have worked. Okay, one more thing to do, I'll remove this. So that could have worked, but it didn't work. So I'll remove that one first, refresh this, and let's see. So we've barely gone 2 minutes past the first hour, and we have successfully implemented all the design changes. So it looks considerably better, but even with the toolbar still scrolling. So like I said, we can't use this arc. So I'm going to take it back to remove the sticky positioning. I'll take it back to manipulating this. What I'm going to do is, instead of the sticky now, we are going to give it its own height. So that means we need to define a height for it. But it's difficult to define the height for something like this. Why? Because it's dynamic on its own. We have like these guys at the top, we have this by this side, and we have all of this. So it can be chaotic if you want to define this for it. Two things we can do is make everything be on the same line. But that is also not sustainable because people use different font sizes. If you increase your display to like maybe 150% and you're comfortable with it, it's going to break our UI and break the UI for you, the user. So we want to accommodate for whatever changes and craziness the user want to bring in, which is understandable, right? We know users are like that. We want to accommodate your changes and whatever it is you are bringing. So we'll take it in. We'll take it as it's supposed to be. What I'm going to do here, first of all, is I'm going to take this as relative positioning to relative. You know what? Works rather than doing this good guy vibes I'm trying to give to it. So I'm just going to direct it as column automatically. I'm going to give it an alignment. I'm going to give it an alignment of start. It doesn't really matter. Stretch doesn't work too. It doesn't really matter stretch or that. It works all the same. So I'm going to give it all of this, and then I'm going to overflow this as normal. And then if we go into this place, because we've done that, we've given it a kind of like block system for the parent container itself. It should, if I still understand the way CSS works, perfectly well. Exactly. So you see that it works perfectly well, right? Yeah, so this is it. So CSS is not that hard if you understand it, but it can be crazy if you don't understand. But yeah, let's not go there. So this is exactly what we're trying to do, and I feel like it makes sense at this point. So So let me stretch it and see if that's so I love it when a good layout comes together. Like when it is that you can build it and it doesn't break in pieces. As you can see now, this looks cool because no matter how big or small the image is, it's going to form and make sense. And you can see everything stacking upon each other and scrolling inside of each other, which makes sense. You can see this extra space. We need to remove the extra space. Why is the extra space there? I have no idea, but we need to find it, which is coming from here. We need to remove the edge full, if I'm not mistaken, because we do not need the edge full. Now that we are taking this route, right, we don't need the edge full. We only need the width to be full. The height will automatically accommodate and calculate itself, which is exactly what we want. So far so good. We've done this, and if you see, it still scrolls fine. Let me refresh this again. Scroll this. Unexpected error. Wow. Okay, so yes, we have all of this, and so what we need to do is to now remove all the colors that we added, all the rainbow colors, and make it look nice. And make it look nice in the sense that now we have our structure well defined, properly defined, defined the way we want it to be. So we need to remove this extra spacing. Now this extra spacing is coming from. I need to know where that is coming from because we need to remove it 100%. So I'm going to do this for this. It's going to be this and class name. Yeah, okay. So that should be okay. So I'm going to remove this from here because we don't need the rows. I'm going to remove the green because we don't need the green. I'm going to remove the padding that I added to all of them to make it look weird. I'm going to remove the padding from here as well. I'm going to remove the padding from the overlay container and the colors to make it look okay. I'm going to remove the padding from this, which is the, okay, I'm going to leave the padding here. I'm going to remove this and the padding. Yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, everything should look cool now. The colors are all gone. It looks proper. It looks modern, right? It looks cool. It looks fine. It looks proper. Now, this is what we have at the end of the day. Now, this looks okay, considerably okay. I'm satisfied with what I have here. So the only thing we need to do now is how to mark it. So we successfully created this from literally the chaotic thing we had yesterday. So now we need to now style it, which can we need to call it for. I want it to be big. So, but that is aside. So we need to now style the annotation core again. One last thing to style. It's going to be the padding, which I want to add to it. So I can literally add the overflow to this overflow Y to be auto. So I don't need to use the class name. So I need to set the width to be 100%. That means I don't need all of this. So this is the beauty of using this Radix layout system. I love it a lot. It makes work easy, it makes life easy for you. You can look at it at a glance and know this is what is happening here without you needing to read through the entire CSS. It makes it extremely easy. You might not like it, but personally, that's my preference. It makes a lot more sense. It makes work faster. So now that we've done this, we can see this stay here and so we have all our defaults. Now we can begin writing to the page or whatever page it is that we're working with. And we can see that we still have this extra space here, which was what we added to the canvas, to this before the canvas. So I'm just going to give this a little color again because I want to see something here. Green 600. So I'm going to check this out. So it has this, yeah, which really looks cool. So you can see that space there because that's what we added to it and we want it to be there. So if we want to totally remove the space, it's just a matter of adding the insets to it, just like we had before. So we can just add this inset to it and then it is gone. But this is fine. We have this, it's translucent. That means it doesn't obstruct what you are doing behind the scene. You can still feel like you are working without being obstructed, right? You have that feeling. and you have this here still working, it doesn't obstruct you in any way. It's perfectly okay. So we need to change some of this. I really don't like the way this looks. Now this looks cool. Some of these items you have at the top, in terms of the arrows, the rectangle, the all of those things. But two things, this is too big. We are taking too much space for something that is not needed. So first things first, reducing the space. So this is 20, is going to be like 12. 20 is a bit too much. 12 is going to give us 48 pixels. So we need to remove this from 20 to 48 pixels. So 100 minus 48 should give us a substantial number that I want. You realize I'm not refreshing again from that side and it's still working properly. So yeah, you don't really need to always refresh. I'm just saying it that once in a while when you make some changes, just do the refresh. So it still works too. So now we have this, which is fine. You can see it's close to the editor, but I don't mind. You can always increase or reduce it. So next thing to do is go to the annotation editor core and increase the gap. Increase the gap in this flex to make it 4 because we want there to be considerable space between this and this. So if I click this again, you can see there's more space in between these guys. So now let's work on this. I'm leaving this green color here just to make you realize that something is there and for now. So we are doing that. Then let's work on these colors and then the buttons and some other close stuff that we need to do. It doesn't look the best currently, like in my opinion. And so we need to change that. So the reason why we have two line toolbar, right? Literally what I would have wanted to do, these two bars here, the arrow, the rectangle should be by the left, should be displayed by the left with more like icons to easily show you what is happening. So you know that the icons will speak more to what you need to do. It's easier that way than having it at the top here. So this one can be by the left, then these other guys, which is the colors and the instructions that for every particular action you pick to annotate the page should be at the top here as it is. But before we do all of those things, I want to install something. I want to install a library for package for icons because these icons looks absolutely terrible. I do not like it. We are changing it. So okay, so let's work with icons. Should I install the icons? I just copy the SVGs since we don't need as much icons. Okay, I can just copy the SVGs. We don't need as much icons. So rather than installing an entire icon package and making the extension big, we don't need all of those things. But you know what? I'm going to still install the icons. It's easier that way. So pm add Lucid React, but not in native. So I'll just use Lucid React. I actually like Lucid React now. So wow, two deprecated subdependencies, source meta and stable. Oh, that's weird. Wow. Okay, so Lucid is installed. So I'm going to use Lucid for some of the icons. So now let's go to the icons here. Let's touch on this part. The colors. You can see these things at the bottom as possible. What we're going to do now. So the tool first of all. Let's touch on the tools. These are the buttons these are the buttons for the colors for this. The green, just to give you this color, you can see whatever I now has a green color. If I click on the blue, whatever I do has a blue color. If I click on pink, it has a pink color, as you can see. So that controls it, but it doesn't really like give us the full picture of what we want to also implement. It controls it, but it doesn't automatically 100% work as we expect. So that's fine, right? And if you use white, you can see the white. I can also draw a rectangle of white on the screen. Yeah, but it's not working well yet. The annotations are not working fine. We debug that little by little by little. So one step at a time. Let's just take it one step at a time. So two things I'm going to do first of all for each of my controls, for each of my for the segmented control. Let's leave that for now. For the brush size, which is what we have here, we are going to be using Radix progress bar. It has a progress of, let me say, a slider. We're going to use a slider. So I prefer that to see from here. This page and see this contains a lot more things, right? It's fast and it contains all the dynamic things. You can still pick it as much. So we're almost done, close to what we are doing. You can see we're on the slider. Yeah, I can still click on it and it works. So what else? This is syntax. So I'm going to close this. This is syntax for the slider. So I'm going to copy this syntax here and add it to our input range. We'll replace our input range with that guy. So I'm going to put this here. A slider, I'm going to import the slider. Yeah, so that's that. The default value is brush size. So in this case, brush size is going to be brush size. That's the default value. So value brush is going to like automatically set the number. The brush size is taking what a number. It's supposed to take right. It's not tiny. Okay, you know what? I'll just say it to myself. It's setting the value. So this is going to be value here is going to be the number that's changing. So yeah, what's the next error here? Number is not assignable to number. Oh yeah, true. Yeah. So we have that. So if you check this, let's check our tools annotate. So you can see we have look this way. Wow, that is terrible. Well, it doesn't work. Okay, definitely use this the wrong stuff. So let's see the example. The example here is 25, 50, 75. Then how do you change the oh yeah, we can style it like this, which is cool. Oh yeah, this is the reason for the range. So we can have a range of values, but we don't need that, do we? Okay, you know what? I'm going to add this here outside of it. Yeah, clearly. I'm going to put this here. Something is still off. Am I sure I'm importing the right slider? Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, I think this is from a value of 0 to 100, right? It's 25, this 100. Okay, let's see the value we are passing in. Our value is from 1 to 10. Oh, okay. So I'm going to multiply it by 10. So that means whatever value we have for the brush size should be like multiplied by 10. I think that's why it was so small. But still doesn't justify the reason why it doesn't show the entire thing. It's just so small. Do we need to set a max width for it first of all and stuff like that? But we didn't set it for this. Oh, but I'll say grid for this. But it doesn't matter. It should maintain the same. It should have a width. You know what? I'm not going to assume it should have a width. I'm going to set a width for it. It's probably the way it is defined. Yeah. I'm just going to set a width for it. I'm going to copy this. So our max width is 300 pixels. 300 pixels is a lot. So I'm going to reduce it to 100 pixels. Set the brush size to the value of 0, which is like this actual value size. So what next? Let's see. Let me refresh the page. Done. Click this. Wow. Okay, this is literally annoying. Where is my slider off to? How don't you have width? Okay, this calls for me refreshing this. Still doesn't have it. Wow. I need to be sure why it is not working as expected. Okay, let's see. So now it works. Wow. So all I needed to do was just set the width for it. So yeah, point taken. Point. Okay, okay, that's understandable. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to check it again. Since it's refreshed automatically, then we still have this. The background color should be gone. Okay, no, it's still there. Wow. All right, so refresh, check again. You should see the result, see the value. Perfect. So we have this. Yeah. So this is going to be like over 100 now. It's less than before. Let's see if we increase it to a very big number. So this is going to look like if you increase it to a fat number. So if you increase it to like a 60 something, it's going to look this big. You can see this. Yeah. So it's yeah. So it's going to look this big icon. So if you make it 100%, it's going to look like this, which I like. I like it this way. I prefer it having this 100% size than the 1:10. So I'm going to definitely remove this. We don't need this. In fact, I'm going to hide it totally and call it display none. Yeah, since we don't use that. That's for the brush size. So I'm going to call it Radix slider brush size. I'm writing the documentation. I'm leaving it with the capital L. So if I check again, I didn't need to refresh anything, right? You can see that the auto refresh still works. So we check all of this. So one last thing, or not one last, one more thing is to gap this by like give it enough spacing. Let's be space between them. They are too cramped. There's enough space for them to utilize. Yeah, something like this is cool. And one other thing, the separator has like a, I don't know if it's just me, but I prefer it to have one. One makes it tiny, but it still makes sense. It feels like the separator is there, but without being there. Yes, it's nice. But I know people that might not like this, so subject to change. Subject to change. So I'm going to, you know what, I'm going to keep it back to 2. Yeah. I've had enough experience to know people will like it. So we have this align gap is 4. I'm going to set the padding to its padding of to 2. Should I say padding of y? Yeah, that's fine. So it's going to be padding of 2. So x and y should give us like 2. So there should be no spacing in between the elements and their containers. So that means I need to reduce the gap to 2 back. Now that they have enough spacing. Let's check again. Does it work? Oh yeah, it does. All right, so we are good on this front. So py should be 2, px should be like 6. 6 is too much. Let's make it 4. Yeah. Okay, so let's try this again. Click on the floating toolbar. Yep, this makes sense. Why am I styling this one? This is not even the one I should be styling. So the gap here should be 4, which as we did is correct. The padding here should be for this one at the top, not for that one down there. So our button is gone. If you check, it's back. And if you click on it, it gives us this. So yes, we want for now, perfectly working. So we have our annotation panel. being displayed. So last thing we need to do now to make this very functional, or last thing, the other thing we need to do is, like I said, we want to change the icons. I literally don't like this. So I started with the progress bar, increase it a little. So I'm going to increase it more to make it have that feel like, oh, this can take more stuff. So I'm going to set it to like width of 32. I'm going to set the size. Size by default now is what's the size? I want it to be big. I want it to be have a size of 3, currently 2. So I'll set it to a size of 3, so it can be big. Size of 3. Yeah, like that. So 32 on the size of 3. So check and see what we have. Yes, let it be big like this. Bold, something you can use. All right, so next thing we're going to do is to replace all these buttons with actual buttons that are rounded. So it makes more sense. People are like familiar and used to rounded colors, I think. But for this use case, I want to use rounded colors. I think it makes more sense than having rectangular colors. So convert this into rounded stuffs. Let's make it so for each of these, I'm going to create a radix button. I'm going to give it a size of 1. I'm going to give it a variant of, it doesn't matter what the variance is really. So I'm going to give it a width rounded radius of full. It's not going to have like a parent, it's just going to be an empty container, and the background color is going to be for the class name. It's going to be color, just PG. You know what? That's just terrible. Color is going to be, oh, he has a default color he uses, so it's not going to work. So let's use the class name again. Let's use this PG color. Okay, this might be like this. I think I'm just wrong with the colors decision right now. Because what if it's not hexadecimal, it's actually the name, then it's going to fail. Yeah, like I said. Okay, let's see. So let's see the colors. The colors are actually, oh yeah, the hexadecimals. Okay, that's fine. So it should work fine then. Let's check again. Still the same thing. So the color needs to change with respect to what we define as the color. So the color of the button should be not this default color, but color. So it's because it's not part of the default. Funny enough, it did not. Yeah, it's supposed to. Okay, so we are not using the actual color that came with it. Let's see if it's going to accept any of it and work with it. Still as stubborn as ever. It's not. No, it is not worth all of this stress. It's just a button. I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to just round this by 100. So the accent color for the border is still there. Not really fancy the way the accent color is at all. So this has like a tint around it. I don't know if I like that. Can increase the size to make it more accessible. I'm just going to give it 28. So it has like a border color, which I don't really fancy. All right, so if we increase the size, we can remove the border conveniently. Yeah, this makes sense. So the black will not display. That's one of the reasons why we need the border color. Now I see why. So we need the accent color to be 9, but for when you select the color, you need it to be gray of 6. So let's see if that works for now. Selected color as a gray of 6. Okay, so it doesn't need to have a gray color. It just needs to have like a, do we need black then? Do we need black? Do we need black? Do we need black? Does it need to have a ring so that we can identified by the ring it has, or it needs to have a shadow, or it needs to have like a. Okay, now this is a problem. I don't know which one should be there. Okay, that's perfectly okay. So we're not going to use the one solid gray. This I'm going to use a softer color because it doesn't make the other colors look good. It only makes the black pop out, um, which is not good enough. It's more like you're sacrificing one color for five, which is no. I'm so skeptical using this. You really don't want to use this solid color. I'm trying to use it, but no, I can't use it. It's too much. It's really, really affecting the way I see the page. Okay. I think for now it's inevitable. Find a way. No waste time. Let's work on the other stuff. Let's touch on the buttons. So for the buttons, you have the typical size. We have this undo button, which I just dislike. Undo. Yeah, let's work with that. Let's work with size of 14, stroke width of 2. So if you check that again, yeah, so we have a proper undo button that makes sense. That looks reasonable. Let's do the same for the undo, because we're going to change this. So this is going to be redo. Okay, so we have the border undo and redo. So it's automatically formatted because we have Prettier installed. So Prettier will undo automatic formatting for you. Yeah, so one of the perks of having something like that. It's quite cool as well. So let's refresh this and see our latest result. So when I click the annotate button, okay, so you already got a page. It shows this way for me, shows the slider, shows the undo button, the redo button, the save and the export. Two things. This is becoming a bit overwhelming even for me. So we need to make sure it is as simple as possible. So we need to remove on some things, strip away many things, not strip, abstract it away. So it's still available but only on demand. That's how we're going to do it. So two things. We're going to move most of these things far right so it doesn't get clustered by the left. Things like the colors will be on the left, configurations will be on the right. Configurations like okay, not configurations, actions will be on the right. Yeah, let's do that. So actions will be on the right. So I'm going to flex these two and separate them by their sections. So what do I mean by that? That means all these colors and the colors and the slider will be in the same place. Then the action buttons are going to be flexed to the far. So that's the slide and do this to gap. So it's a flex here that works with this and doesn't justify the gap before. So we don't need this anymore. So we pick the color picker and got the separator and the brush size. There's a slider in the same place. We need to pick our slider as well. And that part of the spectrum, which is our buttons and our action buttons. All the action buttons generally goes into that container. Yeah, something like this. Okay, so I think it should still make sense. So let's see what we have now. So the ones here should be by the right. Wow, clearly didn't go to the right. My ID is frozen. So that means the file was not saved. I've been having really strange issues with my ID lately, like it's just disconnect. I think it's whenever I run the simulator I've been running for some time, which I understand. For the mobile app I'm working on. So yeah, I think that's the problem. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to reopen the project. Still have a few more minutes to go, so you can still do a lot. Still have about 24 minutes. That's enough time to undo a lot. So yes, let me add the, what was I trying to add to the brush size, to the color picker. Oh yeah, I wanted this to be width of 100%. Then do a class name PG rules kind of setting. So we can see the colors actually being displayed. So if I do this, I refresh the page, check it again. One of them should be by the right. Oh, I see the rose color. All right, I need to refresh this. Oh yes, I just restarted the ID, so I need to restart. Start the Plasma server. So the changes I made now, I need to do it again. Now that the server is restarted. So once it restarts, I go back to the extension page, reload the extension just to be safe, like I always do. Like I always tell you guys to do here too. So it's quite important to do it that way. Then when you do this, you click on this. It's going to pop up this entire page. And now you can see everything is by the right. So it makes more sense this way. You have the effects handler by the left, you have the actions by the right. So just one thing that's no much sense here is the separator. The separator makes it look too awkward. I'm going to remove all of them. I think we don't need this last separator for this. It makes it look totally terrible. For the brush size, or after the brush size, yeah, this one. Okay, so we are back to where we stopped. This. Okay, so successfully covered all the UI fixes. Next thing we need to do, let me push this so we have something to match up with our milestone today. So we have all of this. I'm not adding the TS config, the build info. I'm just going to generate message for this and wait. I think one of my LLMs is having issues generating stuffs. Yeah, timed out. So usually generates that for me. So set up Tailwind and Radix for Plasmo content. So what we are doing now is making UI changes, right? So I'm just going to give it a new branch name and call it UI. We are not setting up Radix now. We have done that. So we're going to call it UI. So you can just UI updates or UI beautification. I think that makes sense. All right, just call it that, and then I commit and push this. It's going to ask me a question. I'm going to answer the question. I'm going to push this. Yeah, that's the question. So create pull request, see what the pull request looks like. Paste this here, assign yourself label for you, and create the PR. So I'm going to make it also automatically. So this is a better summary for the app. So we're going to add this and paste the summary, then refactor that. The main changes are going to be this. This is going to be a new shared component. I just discovered another cheat code for Mac. All right, that's cool. Code refactoring. This is another 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dependency updates, same thing. New type definition, same thing. Yeah, so it takes a lot of time creating my PRs like this. It's quite important for contribution purposes. So if anybody comes to this robot to like read through what is happening, you can easily pick it up and use. It's just good practice to have like very detailed PRs for people to understand what the project is about. Consider doing that. Really, it's helpful. So yeah, I think this is fine. Okay, so I'm going to merge this. No issues, should be fine. So go back to this. Now, time to go to the next thing. Now that I've done all this beautiful thing we can see, which is we using AI to undo some things, and we actually tweaking the UI to make it as polished as we want it to be. Now, this is cool. This looks beautiful, right? Out of the box. So the save and export, I did not change that one. Okay, so I need to change that as well. Let me go to the overlay first of all. I need to change the overlay icon. What is happening here? Why do I have a lot of? Why? What happened to what is extra backspace? Wow. See the project, is it prettier? I think it has to be prettier. I've seen this thing before. Gives misbehavior for me. Or whenever I'm using this ID actually, so it's fine. All right, so let's change the X value we have to proper X shape. Size is 16. Yeah, stroke is going to be 3 to make it a bit more pronounced. So if you check this out, what do we have? We have the X pronounced, like I said, it's going to be 4 because I want it to be 4 and I like it that way. And then it's going to be 3. This is going to be full. So yeah, now we have everything that has to do with our buttons at the top there, making a lot more sense. Now this is it. This makes sense. All right, so we have our close and the save too. We need to work on to make it look okay. See, this is happening again. So let's go back to the annotation call. Let's see if something like that happened here. Okay, no, it did not. So let's look for save. I think is it save, capital S or lowercase s? Capital S, save and export. I can't find it. So that means yeah, it's not really there. It's just a text. So we have this save. Size is 14, stroke is 2. Same thing happens to this close. Size is 14, stroke is 2. Perfectly perfect. So what's the next thing we need to do here? We need to work on this. Yeah, so this is nice. So it looks bold, it looks big enough for whatever use case. We still have more stuff you're supposed to have. Like this is just capturing full pages. What if you want to capture a part of the page, not the full page? I do that a lot. So I'm using my own need and want to build this in a way that I feel like it can balance for whatever use case you have. Like it can be like the optimal thing you need. And that is what we are trying to remember. We have this use case we are working with. We need to implement a lot of free features. Easy accessibility, we've done that. So I'm going to mark this as okay, not complete fully because we still want to have other sources. I'm going to assume it's fine, but it's not perfect. So that's fine. So at least we have this now. That works. So how do we know if it truly works fine? If I save and export, what happens? It actually saves. That's quite nice. So we want to have something that when I go to the extension itself, I should be able to see all the saved stuff. Right. But like I said, we're going to still work with Dixie itself, which is going to be like our local DB before we integrate the sync engine. So we have a lot of things to do. And we are just in part 3. This is going to be a long implementation. So I need to like move faster now since we have still lots more to cover. Please tell me you're not hanging. Okay. Okay, so one more thing. Go to my AI and say things like, okay, no, before we do that, I realized that our annotation implementation do not work properly. Like, I mean, the markers and all of those things don't work as I expect it to work. So if I click like the, let's say the rectangle, for instance, and I draw a rectangle here. So let's say I have something to say to myself or to my team, and I draw a rectangle and I want to write text to it. You can see that it doesn't work. It doesn't work as expected, which is a problem. So we need that to be fixed as soon as possible, like literally fixed. So that is not this is not a good implementation yet. So we need to change this. We really need to change that. So what do we need to do next? So first thing I didn't realize is we don't need a close here. This works. So we don't need that. So I'm just going to comment this out because we don't need this. Okay, so if I check now, unexpected error occurred, it was still loading when I checked. That's why. All right, so we don't have it. So that's cool. We don't have it anymore. So that's fine. So let's work on the main thing, which is let's look for a library that helps us to see if there's a library that can handle annotations. Annotation.js.org. How many years old is this? Looks like something that is old. Okay, so let's look for a library on npm. Because now we are trying to implement something. You see our example of yesterday. So we are trying to implement something that makes a lot more sense, not just So we don't want just image annotations now. We want the total package. That's to do things like images, texts, and all of those things. We need the entire package. So these are annotation toolkits for their research task. Okay, this is one of them. This is one Octra annotation. I think this is the one we saw here. Octra annotation. Offers all annotation related classes and functions used by Octra using the annotate file format as base model. What is Octra? Octra easily computes. Octra is this easily compute included compute for blockchain. I don't think that's the same Octra we are looking for. Uh, okay, I can only see Octra blockchain, Octra blockchain, Octra blockchain. Of full morphic encryption as FHE. Oh, this is a terrible website. Jesus. The colors are just terrible. What is this? What? It's not even that hard to make a website anymore. The colors can blind you. Who combines blue and black? That's like Rule 101 on CSS for web. Do not do that. It's like you really enjoy your user's eyes. This is awful. Okay, I'm not even going to say anything about it. In fact, I want to screenshot and save that page. I need to. Now that we have an annotation that can work for us, I need to screenshot and save it. It's a terrible looking website, and I need to say it. It looks awful. And does anyone notice this looks more like just by itself? It looks weird. It looks small all of a sudden. What changed? That's so strange. I don't believe this. Well, okay, that's fine. So yeah, this worked. All right, so let me do this again. Let me check and annotate Google. So if I annotate a big page, a page that is zoomed in, it zooms in. If I annotate a page that is not zoomed in, it zooms out. Does he have a mind of his own? Oh no, I just built a library with a mind of its own. Oh no, it's formatting according to the size of the text page. Wow. Okay, enough of that. Let's focus on something else. So there's something called box annotation, designed to add markup on top of content displayed by box content preview service. No, a library that uses allows users to add markup annotations to images in a web application. Okay, so what is this? Let's check this in a split view or in a little arc. So you see image annotation, right? That allows users to add images in a web application. I did 2 years ago. Install this JS, then mark it, and you are done. So let's check out Marker 2 demos for various examples. Oh yeah, I know this. Marker this demo to get Inspire started. Oh, this is paid. I'm not using anything that is paid for this tutorial or for this video. Nope, nope, nope. But you can see that it works perfectly well. All you need to do is like they even give you options of what you can do: reduce, undo, save, exit, capture frame, freehand text, and all of these things. We have all of this, yeah. So we just need the functionalities to go with it. We can build our own, but it's going to take a lot of back and forth because you don't want to build an annotation library or let me say a mini annotation library that does all of these things. It will require you to have it like a library, a self-dependent library or package that you can create and add to the text, which is not impossible to do. Like I said, it's just going to be a back and forth thing because all you need to do is like write different canvases on top of another canvas and blend it on top of it so everything works perfectly. That's how it works. And okay, I'm still skeptical on how this is going to work. Text annotator. Can I see some demo? Okay, it's time to look for what Octra really is. Let's check the new tab that was created. Okay, it's time to check out what Octra is. One weekly download 3 months ago, 30 files. See full example here. Okay, this is a cool project. I'm just trying to understand why they have an annotation library. I really don't understand this. I think this is for images, not for text. Okay, so let's do this. Since I don't want to waste time on this, I think it will work, but I'm not trying to go through all of this to get it to work. It looks like a cool library, but the one I would have preferred to use would have been this one. There was one I saw or I came across some times back. I'm going to call it. Okay, I think it's an tutorials. Yes, this one. This, but the thing is, I'm not entirely sure this works. If it can work on use case, but I know it works. Let me show an example. Integrate anywhere, yes. So this is an example. I know you can draw things like rectangles very easily and smoothly, and it works perfectly well, in fact. But that is not the only thing. There should be more. You should have things like allowing you to add text, comments, and some other things. But currently, it doesn't give us that privilege. Neither does it give us the ability to add our colors and stuff. And I don't even know if there's a reference for it. Okay, yeah, there is. But we have the image component reference, image and apply the annotation to it. So this is how it works. So we have a provider, then we have the wrapper also, which is like the provider. Then we have the image annotator also on that provider. Or the main annotators provide with styling. So and then we wrap our image inside of these three things. So that way all of these things become available. We have the adapter, we have the autosave, we have the string, the drawing enabled, drawing mode, the filter, user selection action, style, and the tool. So currently the tool only have the rectangle and the polygon. So I can use a circle, I can use any of those things. Now this is the limitation I'm talking about. If you don't want just this to be the stuff. So if we are going to pick any this library for what we are going to use, we need to pick okay here search on which
It's a
timing. So I need to do my research on what to use for this to work perfect. I think from version 2.7, version 2.7 was okay because it works as it's supposed to work. Let me look for the version 2.7. See if I can find that. Oh no, I can't. If I go to top. So I think I was able to add comments to it. I was very sure I tried it, and I was able to add things like comments and text. This is just the version 3, and version 3 is fine and cool and all that. Okay, this is it. Documentation for this is available here. This is version 2.7, but it's no longer maintained. That's the problem. And you can see here, you can try things like this. Create your own annotation on this image. Just click, drag. And you can see I can add comments to it and cancel it. So what I'm going to do is, without implementing it, but I want to show you guys just to know if it's possible, is I want to the annotation n. So the annotation in this case, which is the annotation editor. Now the editor core is what takes in all the color pickers and all, and these tools and stuff. So I'll just tell that the annotation in annotation editor core doesn't work properly. Is there a library, an annotation library that does all we have listed here? All of it. So we're asking this question to know if there is a library out there that we can use. Probably we are not familiar with it, or I'm not familiar with it, that can undo all of this in real time. So there's no library currently that can do that, to undo all of those, everything we're trying to do in real time. I don't think there is one, but let's see if it can provide a library for me. So whatever library it gives to me is what I'm going to use. So basically, this is going to stop this today because we can't get literally not, but I can ask it to keep checking and suggest for me. If it finds it, oh well and good. If it doesn't find it, we are still in the right track. So yes, that's it, everyone. Thank you so much for watching today, and thank you for being a part of this part 3 series. And hope you guys have learned something too. If you saw the changes as we made them, if you have any questions, drop them in the comment section. Don't forget to share this with someone that you feel is going to benefit from it. And also to see the next part and more fun videos I have planned for this month and for the following month, don't forget to subscribe and like the video also. So it's just a way of people are interested in this, and then it gives you more morale and more boost. So yeah, that is it for today. I'm going to pen this, since I will just ask this, get the instruction, and if there is none, they are going to start building. But I won't put you guys through the stress of building an annotation. I may probably create a simple library that make that work. Create that, then we integrate it, and then by the time we come to the call tomorrow, I'll just show you guys, go around the explanation, or if you want to see how it was built, I can also do that. I show you how it was built, and then you see that, and then we'll proceed from there. Right? It's cool that we can build all of this stuff now. So you're most probably going to do that. So yeah, that is it for now. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.